Welcome back after the break. During 25 years of professional experience, Grzegorz Latuszek, our next speaker, went from CAD systems to telecom industry, from C and C++ via Perl to Python, from being a software engineer, a configuration manager, a project lead to software architect, and a Python trainer, where he is today. He works in telecom test automation. You might want to check his talk from last year's conference, Test Dive. It is available online. So he gives trainings from Python at Nokia, but he also gives lectures at Jagiellonian University. And his hobby is wood handcraft. Can you tell us what you do out of these roots?
I will show you. It will be simpler. Something like this.
Oh, a lamp.
Yeah.
Can I then tell, in reference to your... you can clap. Thank you.
Just made last week.
All right. Can I tell, in reference to your speech, that in order to build it, you have reused what you have found?
Exactly. I just go to the forest. I find the beauty in the nature, especially I like wood. So I take it, I reuse it to do something else from this. I never know what I would do, what will be the final result. And then I put this beauty in my house. That's it. Okay,
so then in reference to your speech, can you tell us what was your bill for this reuse it?
My time, my effort, imagination, things like that.
Okay, I assume there are more software-related examples of that. So let's jump directly into reuse bill by Grzegorz Latuszek.
Thank you. Welcome you warmly at this last talk before lunch. It will take around 50 minutes, and the last part is for your questions. As it was mentioned, I'm in professional coding for like 25 years. 12 of this in test automation, mainly building test automation libraries in Perl and Python to be reused by testers for creating automated tests. And out of that experience, I want to share with you what does it mean, reuse bill. But first, let's look into example of code reuse in aerospace industry. This is Ariane 5. And after such an explosion, there is investigation. What was the root cause? And it was code reuse. Ariane 5 program has reused software from Ariane 4 rockets. And there was a single piece of software doing just a numbers conversion from 64-bit float into 16-bit signed integer. But that was a difference. Why during Ariane 4 there was not such an accident? Because Ariane 5 has faster engines, and there were bigger numbers in these registers that caused overflow condition, overflow bug, and then first backup computer crashed, then main computer crashed, and then overpowered engines, and boom. So, and it costs. The Ariane 5 program was like $8 billion, and it carried this exploded, carried around $500 million worth satellite equipment. So, reuse code is not an easy task, but let's narrow down it, since I expect that there are not so many aerospace software engineers here on this. If there are any, please raise your hand. Seems down. So let's speak in a much more real, in our case, example of code reuse. Let's suppose you have a case when you have a slow database access client. So you go to your manager and say, Jack, you know that database access client? Yeah, I know. It's horrible slow. You know, I have an idea. I will record it and use it. I need a week. What? Week? You're kidding. But I counted this. It will save $2,000 a week. Let's try at least. Week and nothing more. And after the 2 weeks of coding, compressed in 4 days and nights, you have this code. You are happy because your code works. It's quick. It's beautiful. It's yours. You go to your managers. You are happy. You are proud. Your manager is proud. Even too proud, since he told on the monthly meetup to other managers that his department has created a database access client ready to be reused right now. And you know what it smells? I see this illusion so many times that managers tend to think that if software has a good quality, means it is reusable. But it maps also to technical people. That if you create good software and you just share with your colleagues and they are glad of your software, you think, yeah, let's share it to all the world. But that's not true. Think twice. What will happen if you share this piece of code? Much more maintenance cost. More change requests coming from the people of different sides, different viewpoints. And it won't be so easy if you realize you would like to change it because you will break backward compatibility. So, code reuse may kill you. There is a simple lessons learned, but so frequently forgotten that software not planned to be reused is not reusable. And that's the first bill you need to pay if you want to create reusable code. You need to plan it. You need to pay the time for planning that. And question is, how should this plan look like? What questions should be put? What part of the software is worth to make it reusable? Who will find these pieces? Who will design them? Who will code them? And how we will promote when it is done to end users community. Because if we create this software that is the best reusable software in the universe, but no one uses this, that it is not reusable. Because that are end users who define our reusability. Okay. And because the reusable software costs much more than the normal one, it's worth to look in long-term profit. What will be the long-term profit will overcome the cost of production, because here we have bigger time for designing, thinking about possibilities, how people might use it. You need much more careful testing, CI system, and so on. So it costs. But the question here is how we will know which part is worth to invest. And that comes from experience. The ability to recognize the pieces worth to make it reusable comes with time, comes with failures. How many times have you made the given piece of software over and over? Or how many times have you taken that part of a software from this team, the other library from this team, yet another one, and then you realize, oh, they are all about the same topic, just differently implemented. And you feel your programmer's heart is bleeding. You feel you wanted to make it once and good. But important note here. Of course, there are different parts depending on the domain. If you are a database coder, and if you are web applications coder or telecom, there might be different areas. However, inside your domain, you will find plenty of such pieces of the code that are reusable because you know they are always needed. Here's my domain. Let me talk from my experience. I'm in this telecom testing, and from this experience, I know that if we have some lab setup, okay, we will need devices, some objects that will be a proxy to this hardware, software entities in the lab, like Linux boxes, routers, switches, attenuators, and so on, so on, so on, to control them. To speak with them, we will need the connections, a TCP, SSH, serial, what is required per given device. Many of those devices have a command line interface, not a fancy one, graphical user interface, just something simple to let testers do a manually tweaking of these devices, making some actions, and so on, so on. And logs are always needed for proving the correctness of your test and for especially for troubleshooting. And everything, because it is telecom, works in parallel. So we need to construct our framework to let it run, check things in the parallel. And inside our Krakow center, we had such a framework. It's called Test Automation Framework. It has some history, 17 years till now. So it has grabbed over the years experience, and it has all these functionalities. Okay, it has devices, connections, and so on. What is the problem? The problem is that it is in Perl. And today, there are less and less people on the market knowing Perl. So we would like to have it in Python, because there are people on the market knowing Python, so our company may employ them, and they are ready to use this library to support it, to write it in, and maintain, and so on. And that's how new, fresh version Molar library came into existence. It's a fresh one. It has 1 year of history and was released just 3 weeks ago. Okay. But when we are talking about code reuse, it's not only about source code reuse. It's also about reusing concepts, design, ideas that was proven by the past usage they're good. And we know from the past usage what was bad. Okay? So we reuse ideas, concepts. Oh, by the way, this Molar was open sourced by Nokia. So when we have created this Molar library, for sure, we have taken all these connections, devices, commands, concepts, architecture, all this from the Perl framework. Another inspiration was a Python HTTP library called Hyper, made by Corey Benfield. And it inspired me to create this library as IO independent. And once more, my thanks go to Corey. for his talk on the YouTube that inspired me to do correctly layering model inside this library to, as he calls it, it's about setting correct defaults at each level. And last one was my play with different asynchronism machineries inside the Python, since I'm Python trainer, so I need to train myself, so I play with different libraries, and after this experimentation, I realized I want something that is parallelism independent as much as it is possible. Okay, but let's look how these reusing ideas convert to the source code. The majority of these examples are in Python, since I'm coding in Python. So this core idea of simplicity is feature reminds me another sentence: simple things should be simple and complicated should be possible. This is like with this lamp, okay? Now it's decorative one, I can say. And now it allows me to read something. And for me as end user, it was so simple as push the button. Okay? So we can use this idea in our software. Let me show you how we have made it in the library. My task is, let's say, I want to find process IDs of all the Python processes on my machine. So first step, simple to code, was I ask a Python, give me my machine. Okay? So I get device, my machine. But wait a moment. How do Python know what my machine means? I was a liar. It was step 2. Step 1 is I need to tell the Python by loading configuration what this my machine means, and it is just a YAML configuration file telling you what this symbol means, which Python class should be instantiated. Okay, coming back to the example. I have this device, so I wanted to run ps commands to have the speeds, okay? So I asked this device, give me the command object with the given parameters, okay? And then I want to run it, and how I run it? As a normal Python function method, because this is callable object. And as a result, I get the data structure that is easy for end user to use, because this is just a dictionary. I grab through the command key inside this dictionary, searching for the Python, and then I take the key process ID from this dictionary. That's it. And it produces something like this. Under the hood, there is all this establishing connection to the device, composing a command string with the parameters, sending over connection, grabbing the output, parsing the output, and storing this dictionary inside the object. But why should we bother end users about such a details? The case for end user is, give me the command, run the command, give me the result, I will take the details of this result. But that's a case of simple user scenario. What if we have a more advanced user who wants something else? Then, here's a similar one, but here we don't use factories of the device to create a command object. We instantiate a ps command manually, providing it a connection. But how we get the connection? We ask, give me a connection of a given type. Okay, but which one terminal connection I will get? A score says, default one. I don't know which one. I don't care. I need the default terminal. But if my end user wants something special, he says, give me this variant of the terminal connection. But which class implements this variant? The default one. If he wants, he may even create it manually. So this is what I want to show you about the reusable libraries, that from one side, we need to think in two directions. One is to create something simple, and second direction is something flexible. One for simple use cases, majority of the users, and open possibilities for more advanced user. Okay. There is a YAGNI acronym. Who knows what it means? Raise your hands. Part of you knows. You ain't gonna need it. This is an acronym mainly used in agile world to not over-engineer your code. But you know, when I hear all these buzzwords or something that is highlighted as a word to stop discussion, this is always my feeling that I'm against it. Or in some circumstances, why shall I stop thinking and hide behind these buzzwords? Why shouldn't I just ask, maybe it's not true? Because there is some developer here and he says, okay, I have an idea for a functionality. I know this functionality will be needed. No, YAGNI, no one wants it, so let's not code it. But that developer, from the past experience, remembers end users who used this in the past, and he remembers that it was helpful for the people. So yes, YAGNI has its place in the universe. However, don't forget about the experience. Example. Securing background events. When we switched from using this Perl framework a few years ago into using what we are using right now for test automation, which is robot framework, I realized, and experienced testers realized, that those libraries are missing background observers, things that will catch an errors happening something in the background, something bad in the background. Let me explain. You have a test case with, let's say, 4 steps. First step, green. Second, green. Third, green. Fourth, green. Test passed. Everyone is happy. Your manager is happy. You catch the deadlines. However, how will experienced tester use these libraries? It's generic. If it gets it first, he doesn't trust. So, he opens a second window, Bash console, and runs the top Linux command, to observe CPU utilization during the tests. And accidentally, while the test was running, he realized that during this specific test, CPU utilization was like 90%. And even if test is passed, is green, he will manually fail this test and force development people to check this out. So we may solve this problem by putting into the test a line, okay, step 1, check CPU utilization, step 2, check CPU utilization, and so on and so on and so on. However, this way, our test will be unreadable because we will mix business logic with error handling logic. But there is another solution. We can set up some object that will run in the background and keep an eye on all these bad things happening on the connection, that there is too high CPU utilization, there is some reset on the board, somehow related to the software or hardware that I'm testing, alarms, and so on, so on, so on. So that way we run something like this at the beginning of the tests, then all tests are running, but while they are running, if something bad happens, by a callback, it fails the tests. And over the years of this Perl framework, our testers collected all that cases that escaped from their testing. Then, after thinking about why it happened, they had put all this logic securing tests, what might be, even such cases that someone gone through the lab and just pull out the cable, okay? So you would like to know if your test fails because someone has pulled out the cable in the lab or it really doesn't work on your hardware. Okay, so we have encoded it into this. I'd like to show you by this example that you should also think in the terms that maybe someone remembers, you should argue. Not only say, Yagni, and that's all, stop discussion. We don't have a client for this, but listen to the people. Maybe they will show you the real case. But not only code selection, but also implementation is worth to put and experience people in it. I observe a tendency maybe, if you have a separate department of development and the testers, let's put most experienced people into the development because there is a customer paying for this hardware, software solution that we provide. And here's just a test automation library. So let's put a junior coders or students on internship to build this library. But do realize the cost. Later on, testers will use those libraries to check the piece that you are paid for. Then they will find the bugs. However, majority of these bugs will be in libraries to test this, not in the hardware, software itself that is sold. So it is waste. So that's the second bill you need to pay for reusable code. You need to assign experienced people to selecting this code, to implementing this code. But however, okay, I have a question for you. How many of you are still students? Raise your hands. Okay, there are a couple. How many of you are employed 1 to 3 years? Okay, thank you. So, all of you might think the guy on the stage is claiming that you are not able to create reusable software. That's not about this. You might be skilled better than me. It's not about the skills. It is experience about the pain, about the failures that we've made in the past that teach us. Let me show you my pain lessons. It seems obvious. Quality matters. We need software with a high quality as much as it is possible, and so on, so on, so on. But what does it mean, literally, in the software? I remember the times of this Perl framework when there was a discrepancy between documentation and the real thing that software produced. There was those command objects, and inside those command objects there was the documentation, what type of data structure it produces after the parsing of the raw output from the command line. Testers took this documentation, made their test automation code, it works, okay, But later on, someone has changed implementation of a command object without updating the data structure, and it broke, and it was detected late, means during the production, means during the tests. So that past pain caused us to think how to prevent our new library from such cases. And here's how we realized this. There is a command. Here is an ls Unix command. And inside the Python file of this implementation, there is a Python variable storing the output from ls, example output from ls command. And there is another variable showing what dictionary will look like after parsing this input. Okay? And we put this machinery into our CI system that after each modification of the command object, that is an automatic check that if we will put this raw output as an input to the command, it will parse it and it will produce dictionary that is equal to what command object declares as its output. Okay? Coming back to this. That's example of what I mean by this experience, that the lessons from the past you may use in new software to just solve the whole area of previous bugs. Okay, before this, there is a third bill to pay related to social aspects. I want to ask you how many of you have been on the test dive last year and see my presentation, test automation. Step back, please. Okay, 2. Or have you seen it on the YouTube? 3, okay. So I beg your pardon. I will repeat one section of this because it is highly related to this, but be silent, please, and don't answer my question because you know. Okay. There's a story. It was 5 years ago. New is coming to our center. We need to stop coding in this Perl framework. We need to switch to robot framework. But it means for me and the people used to this Perl framework that we need to throw away all this experience and code it into this library. Is there any other solution to this to prevent the past experience in the software? And I raise my hand. Okay, I will do it. Okay. And it was not only me, but it was a team. And over a few months, we have encoded the solution, which was just because robot itself is a Python library. Under the hood is a Python. So we took the JSON RPC glowing the Python and Perl. So in the Python, there was like a proxy objects calling the real functions running in the Perl side and the response and so on. Okay. So. But this is the Perl framework. Robot is Python. And I've mentioned this Molar library. However, it was 5 years ago, and it was not existing those times. So it was this mixed Perl Python solution called Wrath. It has 4 years history right now. And it succeeded. There are over 1,000 tests running on it today, even today. We are migrating to full Python. However, it works. It has all this functionality required, all these devices, connections, log system, and so on, so on, so on. So, what? If we've made it, we want to show our success. Here it is. So there's a success. We want to share it. We ask, who else wants our wonderful solution? Because you have this ready functionality. Just take it for free. And guess what? Who wants? No one. And I asked myself, why? What has happened? Why people don't want, it's a generic question, why people don't want to reuse, to take your beautiful code with such a high functionality embedded in it? Maybe because it is too difficult. Yes, it was, because you need people with the skills in Perl and Python, especially when there was troubleshooting. You need to debug in Perl, Python. Believe me, it's a tricky thing to debug in two languages in parallel. However, it was not the main root cause. You know, what might be the main root cause people don't want to take some library? Sorry? Not invented here, yes, something like this, okay. Once more. Some ideas? Sorry? Something better exists. Always something better exists, okay. Okay, legacy systems. And it's not so easy to combine it. Okay, I will show. What I found, the most important attribute of software is mojżość in Polish, my in English. This is my code. I want to use my code. Even if there is somewhere over the universe the best reusable library, I choose mine. Why? Realize the schedule. You have a deadline before you. Do you want to invest in learning yet another library? If you will find the bug, then you need some ticketing system and you await for the fix. If you have your code, you know it. Maybe it's not the best one in the universe. However, you know it. You know how to fix it quickly. And you're done. So problem, how to overcome this mojżość idea of the software. What if we would change it, my to our? Okay? To create perception that this library is not the team over there has their ownership, but this is our common ownership of this code. If we will create this together, if we will discuss about this software together, then we will build this feeling, this is ours. Because I have been involved in creation process of this library. And that's how we started what is called right now abstract UI, abstract libraries, a library in Python. It started from a week workshop in Oulu Lab. I, as a representative of a Krakow automation team and the guys from Oulu automation team, we met together. It was winter in Finland, -27. And we discussed, we argued each other, showing different viewpoints, different needs of their teams, our teams, and so on. And after a week, we were able to create the layout of this API of this library and even create prototype, however, operable code that was controlling Qualcomm US in Krakow Lab and MACG US in Oulu Lab. And it worked. And later on, new teams joined from Wrocław here and from Ulm in Germany, collecting yet another broader view of end users and test automation teams and their needs. Okay, so this is possible. So, social aspects. The first and major, in my view is this shared ownership of the code, that your customers perceive this library as ours, not this automation team has created this library and they force us to use it. And this leads to another one I observe frequently, such a bad behavior that is like, I have created this library, you are end users, just take it. And we are not listening. We don't have this feedback loop from the end users community. They are forced, for example, by managers to use it, but they have no heart in this code. So they will abandon as much as possible to use this code that will code something they own. And if you want a success in this, we also want to gather skilled people in the team that is creating the reusable code. So building a possibility for the people to increase their skills, to gain experience from other people in this team, to be a good place to work. Okay? Coming to conclusions. Here are reuse bills you need to pay for reusable code. Planning time, all these experienced people, at least one in the team, and pay the social aspects bill. Listen to the people, create the source code together, and of course, go for a beer. Managers. Paying for the beer is investment, not a cost. Yeah, really, because later on, you will observe how smooth communication is. If I ask people that have been on the beer, they will answer my emails instantly, not days to days after. I can call them. They will give a really important, real answers. Okay, they won't abandon me. Okay, but I have the last bill for you, and that reuse bill is about the mindset related to code reuse. I have it here. So please do repeat after me. Here it is. Reuse. Speak loudly, please. Reuse is for others that don't think like me. And that is very important point of view. Because if you pay all those bills, then in the long term, of course, you will see it pays off. It's my experience from last years. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions? I cannot see. Questions? Final call? Yes, we have questions.
Hi, and I have a question about responsibility.
Okay.
So if everybody is owner of this code, how do you ensure that for such a big library?
The question was about responsibility. If everyone is an owner, who is responsible? I want to give an exact answer. In our example, we have it collected in the Jira, all these requests for the changes, and we just running through it. And also, if there are questions, we just answer the emails. That it is behavior. I think you can formalize it somehow. okay, and say, okay, it will be a round robin that you are responsible in this day for the support. It's not, in our case, it's not so big as not formalized. It's not somehow a giant reuse. So we just handle it normally. We feel responsible for this library. And for example, right now, guys are doing the Android UI implementation. They are in Mexico City, so if there are questions, I answer. Even if Android part is their scope, I just answer for the questions related to the, if I can, okay, this way. But we feel responsible for this library. We want to do it. It is somehow related to this building the community around the software that we feel this is not harm for us to answer the questions. We want to stand behind this library.
Hi. So I had a flashback from previous project. Like there are two teams, junior QA and senior dev. But I saw in my experience that senior dev team always came to us asking about the features because they don't know how it should work. So you have the same experience about this?
Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Depends on the scale and your departments, how people cooperate, realize because our case, Nokia is a huge company. We have teams cooperating, but these teams is in States, this is in Finland, in Poland, and you might have a development department in Finland and testers here in Poland. So it's much harder to be in touch. In smaller companies, yes, it's a good habit. However, it doesn't exist always. So this is, but it was, my hint was about not throwing away all the experience from this part of software. In my case, it was automation library, but it is about preserving experience from the past pain, at least in one person in this team, to don't make the same faults once more. It's rather about it, and also about some communication, yes. So you may have it, so in your case, it is a kind of virtual senior in this junior team, yeah? Might be. If there is a smooth communication, you can have this knowledge preserved.